JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has always had a lot of crazy things in it, and it's got a lot of charm to it. But there is one thing that JoJo's has mastered so perfectly that it's bizarre how good it is. I'm talking about the beautifully done situations that Araki creates, where we have important characters that are the good guys right next to villains and bad guys, but the good guy doesn't even realize this. In some of these cases, not even the villain knows that they are right next to their enemy. But what makes it so fun is that us as the audience knows almost everything, which creates some perfect dramatic irony. It creates these moments where us as the audience want to scream at the characters like, "He's right next to you," and overall it just makes these moments have so much suspense. And today I'll be looking at 4 different examples of this, each in a different part, where Araki uses this technique. So one beautifully done moment where this technique is used is in part 5, when Doppio is right next to Bucciarati, but Bucciarati does not realize that he is right next to the mob boss leader that he has been pursuing this entire time. By this point, we already know that Doppio is Diavolo, but Bucciarati doesn't know this, and at this point, Bucciarati is blind, so he can't even tell who he's talking to. This blindness comes into play later on in the scene where Doppio pretends to be Trish, and we as the reader want Bucciarati to realize what's going on so bad, because we know everything. This creates so much suspense because we as the reader are on the edge of our seat waiting to see like what happens next. Will Bucciarati figure it out? What will happen if Bucciarati realizes that he's right next to Diavolo, the guy he's been chasing the entire part? This dramatic irony just makes these moments so perfect. It's honestly bizarre how good it is. Another great moment like this in part 4 is when Josuke comes to see Kira lying on the ground wounded, but he doesn't know that the man in front of him is Kira. And this is after Jotaro and Koichi just had like a big battle with Kira, which took both of them out of commission, but also has Kira super injured. So after everything Jotaro and Koichi had done to try and beat Kira, us as the audience so badly want to see Josuke finish off Kira in like a brutal JOJO style beatdown. But then we see Kira try to take advantage of the fact that Josuke does not know the full situation. So we have Kira asking Josuke like, "Please help me, I don't even know what's going on, but I'm so hurt and stuff." And after everything that happened, us as the audience so badly don't want Josuke to use his healing ability on Kira, because it would ruin all of Jotaro's and Koichi's efforts and make them all in vain. So this makes this moment so satisfying when Josuke does figure out that Kira is not who he is pretending to be. And because of the fact that Josuke looks like a delinquent, most people don't trust him. So a guy like Kira asking Josuke to heal him makes no sense under normal circumstances, which is what tips Josuke off that something is like wrong. And this is so different compared to the Doppio and Bucciarati moment, because unlike in that moment, this actually ends in the protagonist figuring out that the villain is the person right next to them, and it makes this moment so satisfying and refreshing. Honestly, it's so satisfying, in fact, that I would say this moment is pretty bizarre. Before I get into the next example, real quick, shout out to Water Phoenix, and I'm shouting out a random person in the comments every video, so shout out, yeah. Next, we see a similar situation to this that utilizes the same trope in part 6. So in this situation, Jolene and Weather Report had just beaten an enemy stand user that had like a weird floating power stand, and now Jolene is trying to get to the courtyard where she can give the Speedwagon Foundation the stand disc that her father, Jotaro, needs to survive. Now we got Weather Report. He's hiding behind a barrel because he's bleeding and he doesn't want to make things even more suspicious, while Jolene's using the enemy stand user's identity card to request for the door to the courtyard to be opened. But to our surprise, the one who opens the door is Pucci himself, who has been orchestrating everything as the villain the entire time. We as the audience know everything, and Pucci also at this point knows that Jolene is his enemy. But Jolene at this moment still thinks that Pucci is like just a normal priest guy. This creates a great moment where we're hearing Poochie's thoughts and Jolene's thoughts and see how they approach the situation based on what they know. Honestly, in this situation, the possibilities are limitless at this crossroad because Jolene could attack the priest, thinking he's a normal person who could alert the guards and is a risk, which would cause Poochie to probably bring out White Snake and cause a big battle. We could see Poochie catch Jolene off guard and attack her with his White Snake stand, which is his goal at the time is to stop Jolene and take Jotaro's stand disc back. So that would kind of serve the purpose that he wants. But meanwhile, as a third factor, we still have Weather Report close by, hiding behind the barrel, which creates even more possibilities for how this situation could end. And it's so interesting because we get so much insight in this scene on the inner thoughts of both Poochie, who's a villain that at this point we don't know much about, and Jolene, who's the main character, so of course we're interested in her. And in this situation though, in the end, Poochie, he lets Jolene pass because he notices that a third person is hiding nearby, and this leads to some pretty crazy stuff later in this arc, like really crazy stuff. So this scene, it just has so much suspense, so much bizarre tension, and also a lot of insight into the thoughts of both Jolene and Poochie in bizarre situations. Alright, the examples I have listed so far, they're really like tense situations, but it's not like Araki only uses this technique for the intense moments with final villains. We have seen a super funny moment that uses this trope in part 3, when Polnareff is acting super friendly with the old lady Enya. And she's that old lady from part 3 that was like giving out stands to everyone with the arrows, and she's just like an old hag that we don't like. But as some more like reminder context, at this point we as an audience already know that she's evil, and in recently we had seen Polnareff kill old lady Enya's son, so we see that she hates Polnareff like so much because she loved her son. But in this scene she has to hide her hate because she's waiting for the perfect moment to kill Polnareff. And in this moment we have Polnareff like rubbing Enya's shoulders and acting all friendly with her because he thinks she's just like an average granny. And then meanwhile we get to see and hear her inner thoughts, and she's like, oh my god, I hate this guy. But then her outer actions, she's like trying so hard to hide her true emotions, and she's pretending to be some nice old granny, which makes this situation like super funny. Funny dialogue is when Polnareff, he's like trying to be all friendly, so he's asking her about her kids, and he's like, oh, do you got any kids? And she's like, oh nah, sadly they passed away. So we got like Polnareff being all friendly, and he's like, oh, sorry for your loss. But then we see Enya's inner thoughts, and she's so mad, like she's thinking like, you're the one who killed him. But she can't do anything about it at the moment, and she's trying so hard to like hold in her crazy granny anger. And honestly, it just makes it such a funny moment because of how the dramatic irony comes into play and of how bizarre the situation is. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Comment which of these suspenseful moments you liked the most, and consider subscribing so I can get monetized. Alright, bye.